Hey,
why does it seem a little like nicer in here today? Is it because we finally have a female guest?
Yes. Yes. Is it?
It's
Mara's
lighter,
the first
it's nicer.
female guest?
Yes.
I'll be damned.
Wow.
We are misogynistic, obviously.
Well, speak for yourself.
Like Kevin picks all the guests, by the way. I was right like, all the time. I was saying we should get a woman in here, and he kept saying no.
Yeah, no way.
No way.
No way.
Yeah.
We have
No
Matt
way.
Reardon. We don't need Mara
Not unless
Reardon.
his wife's here.
That's right. That's right.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's
good
nice
to see you, Mara.
Representative Reardon's in the house.
Mara and I haven't spoken face to face since May, at least, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's
Just
good to see you.
texting.
You look the same.
When did I see you last? I can't even remember.
I
Oh, yeah,
bet you-
maybe at some...
Was it a debate or?
We saw each other on Zoom.
Oh yeah.
That's what it
Oh,
was.
we were
that-
texting each
Lovely
other.
Zoom meeting.
That was a
Yeah.
crazy little
Yeah.
thing, too. Yeah.
Mara and I were talking. We were communicating pretty much the whole campaign. Her and I talked to Matt a little bit, but I talked to Mara more. You were probably one of the few candidates I actually spoke to. We would text each other usually. Funny little.
Well,
like,
I mean, and
Yeah.
about the process and how crazy it was. And I think that for me, I said this on Twitter. I wasn't running against you. I was running for Congress.
Right.
Well,
we said that at the beginning. Both of us did. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into all that.
Yeah.
So welcome to Left to Center podcast,
Thank
Representative
you.
Mara
Thank you
Candelaria
for having
Reardon.
me.
You can tell Mara's
to be
on.
here.
We got a great audience built up.
It's like, oh my
bam,
God, I'm
right
watching.
Off. Like right off. Bam.
Don't forget to like and follow the podcast on Facebook at Left to Center Podcast, on Twitter at LOC Pod, or on YouTube. Like it and share it every Tuesday and Friday, 7:30 a.m. live. And you can also listen and subscribe on Apple Podcast by searching for Left of Center Show.
I keep saying that I'm still geeked about it. I actually wait now until it comes down on my Apple so I can listen to it. I don't listen to it on Facebook Live.
Really? Because you're here live? So
Well,
you can't
Facebook
listen to it on
Live, to
Facebook
listen
Live?
to it on Facebook Live, like I work out usually, and you have to leave your phone on. Like the video has to be on, which sort of kills your battery. And
Hard to call in.
But on Apple, when you download it, you start the podcast, you can turn your phone off and just put it in your pocket, which is nice.
Take a ride.
Yeah, I listen a lot, actually. I
In the
always
car.
listen.
it's a nice option to have. Not everybody's on Facebook,
Right,
including
right.
myself.
There
Really?
you go.
You get off after
Look
the
how
campaign?
smart you are.
Yeah.
You're like-
After the campaign?
Like, forget this.
After
Right.
June, I've been off since June.
That's interesting to me.
Well,
Why?
it was a really toxic place for me.
It's a very toxic place anyway.
It's a
I
sewer.
just don't see the need to be on there. I mean, initially it was because of, being wanting to keep in contact with people that live far away, friends of mine from other places, and it's really forced me to be actually more engaged with those people. I call them and I say, and I have actual conversations instead of hitting the like button,
Isn't that funny?
we exchange pictures through our phones. We don't have to be on social media to do that. And I think that it was a really toxic place for me. And so all those people out there who think I've unfriended you,
All the haters.
I have not unfriended you. I am
have-
off Facebook,
I have
okay?
unfriended
so,
Facebook.
Yeah, so,
With my family, I prefer the like button.
I'm just going to like you. Your mom's listening.
It's
Don't do
much
that.
better to like.
That's right.
My
Hey,
family, actually, I want to throw a thought out to my family in California right now. My sister's house is packed up. I hope that she's still packed up. And yeah, she lives in the mountains, and she's at fire like all around her. She's sending me pictures, and we're seeing the pictures from San Francisco. But,
Yeah,
like,
the San
during the
Francisco pictures
daytime,
are
Mm-hmm.
it's
crazy.
nighttime. It's like a glowing nighttime.
all because of the need, again,
Right.
to document every part of our lives. The big
Yeah.
reveal party was a reason that,
Yeah.
that started that fire,
Yeah.
right?
Isn't that crazy? That's a good reason to get rid of those, by the way.
Yeah, it's a really dumb
Right,
idea,
the
but-
gender
That's a
reveal.
millennial thing.
Can we please look? Our age, that didn't happen.
No, it
Can we
didn't.
please get
Nobody
rid of the
gave a
gender
crap.
reveal? I don't care what you.
When
get
they
a
pulled the
cheese
baby
pizza.
out, it was revealed.
That's right. Then you knew.
That's right.
The good
Yeah.
old days. Well, let's do some sponsors and
Sure.
get back to Representative Reardon.
All right, let's start off. Start off with Region News Source, featuring Northwest Indiana region-specific breaking news and stories, focusing only on facts regarding our lives in Northwest Indiana. Paul Goddard and his team are proud to declare that they have no political bias, just facts and truth, straight from reliable and trusted sources. This service is provided to the region for free. Check out. You got to do emphasis when you do
Yes,
this, Kevin.
you have to geek it
See,
out.
Kevin just like he's just monotone.
Yeah,
the
just
whole time.
boring.
You know, I
Never.
actually like I do emphasis and stuff like that. That's why people want me to read their
That's why
stuff.
you're the engine, whatever you called yourself the other day.
The locomotive.
Okay,
Get
sorry.
that straight, buddy.
Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
Check out our website at regionnewssource.org or follow us on Facebook at Region News Source.
Attorney Alfredo Estrada at Burke, Costanza, and Carberry, locations in Maryville and Chicago. Alfredo is one of the most experienced lawyers in the area of immigration and civil litigation. Call Alfredo at 769-1313. That's 769-1313 for all of your immigration and civil litigation needs. Adelante con Alfredo. Wasn't that? I mean, that's embarrassing.
Adelante con Alfredo.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mara.
That's a nice
what
shirt.
Can we record
by the
that
way.
so I don't have to keep saying it?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a nice shirt.
Premier League starts tomorrow, so I wanted to represent for Burnley.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Kyle Dempsey, State Farm Agency. Are you in the market for insurance? That's a question. Do you want to
Yes.
find an agent that you can trust? The Kyle Dempsey State Farm Agency is just that. Kyle's offices are conveniently located in Hammond and in Cherryville. State Farm has new low auto insurance rates as well as great rates for homes, renters, businesses, and even life insurance. Call Kyle Dempsey's office at 219-845-1571 for more info.
Griziola's Concrete, voted #1 in the region by the Times. Our company has the best concrete and masonry contractors in the area ready to help with your end-of-summer projects. Griziola's Concrete Work, a well-known, experienced concrete and masonry small business, fully licensed, bonded and covered with insurance, authorized to perform concrete and masonry work in the state of Indiana. Give them a call at 219-659-4127. That's Griziola's Concrete.
Bob's Plastering and Painting. Bob's Plastering and Painting provides professional, affordable, and reliable plastering and painting services with over 30 years of experience. We are licensed, bonded, and insured. Call today to schedule a free estimate at 219-616-6609. That's 219-616-6609. Check out before and after pictures at bobsplasteringandpainting.com.
Thanks to our sponsors. I want to make sure everybody remembers, if you do want to call in and talk to the mayor, Representative Reardon, 219-595-0792.
Does Lindsay have that thing to read off that we do each show? You want to go
Already
ahead
did it.
Oh,
In the beginning,
You
because we
did?
didn't have an extra mic. I'm sorry, did I take your thunder, or do you have it?
you did take her thunder.
Do it. Read it. We like to hear your voice anyway.
That was really rude.
Sorry, Linz.
That was really rude.
I forgot we had an
He is
extra
rude,
mic over
Lindsay.
there.
I've been putting up with this crap for
No.
20 years.
I
Lindsay,
thought
you know?
I thought about it, and I thought we don't have an extra mic or spot for Lindsay,
I
but
know.
we do.
This is like
She's breathing her
my
COVID
shining
on you.
moment in every podcast episode.
Last
This is it. You
last
just took her-
episode, she was pissed at you. Now she's pissed
You
at me.
took her. You
She's-
took her thunder. This is like how she's going to be found, and like you
Makes
just took
me
it from her.
wonder
She
why
knows
you
better than
bring the
that.
You're not
thunder.
going to be found.
She's
Kevin.
already been found. We know she's a star.
All right, you
That's
guys
right.
ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're gonna interrupt me, Dad?
No, I'm
Okay,
going to
cool.
let you do it.
All right, guys, it's September 11th, and you're listening to Left of Center, where we cover everything from politics to important events of the day in the Midwest and the nation, all while trying to have a little fun while doing it. If you can't get enough of us, follow us on Facebook at Left of Center Podcast or on Twitter at LOCPod, LockPod. If you can't listen in live, download our episodes from the Apple Podcast app and enjoy our show at a crystal clear 197 kilohertz per second. Just search Left of Center and look for our red and blue logo.
Thanks,
Thank
Lance.
you.
Kevin
But-
didn't do that.
No, she did it much better.
Kevin didn't do
Not
that.
even close.
Kevin didn't do that.
We should probably say something about September 11th.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it this morning. It's been 19 years. Is that
Yep.
kind of hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it's
What were you doing? I mean,
I
where were
wish
you
I
working?
could say. I wish I could say I was doing something interesting.
Yeah.
I was literally nursing my infant son.
Wow.
it was a Tuesday, right? I think I remember it was a Tuesday.
It was a work day. I remember I was
Yeah.
I was working in the
I was in
government
court,
center.
yeah.
I was going to court when it happened, when the first plane hit, and then when I got to court, the second plane hit, and
was,
I didn't go to court that day.
was a
Everything
crazy
got shut
day.
down. Yeah.
I think for me, I can remember the night being much more
Yeah.
Eerie.
Heavy.
It was
Everything.
that night. Everything had shut down.
Yeah.
There was silence
No
everywhere.
planes.
No planes, no vehicles. People were
That's
not on the
crazy.
road. It was eerie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the
very
planes.
eerie.
They grounded what 50,000 planes.
Everyone, yeah. I mean,
Like-
it's just 19 years ago. It's crazy.
To
I
the
just-
closest airport. So if you were on your way to San Francisco and you were flying over Texas, they made you land in Texas, and you were just
Yeah, there's all those planes that landed in Newfoundland and all that
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And
Right.
all, yeah, so just amazing. And, you know, you
Canada.
can't forget 3,000 people died that day. So it's
And you know what else is interesting? We've been at war ever since.
we've been in Afghanistan for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since then. I mean,
Yeah, a couple
how
months
many,
after,
how
right?
many trillions of dollars have we spent, since then? Obviously, we had to get Osama bin Laden, and we were successful. President Obama's, administration was
Absolutely.
successful. But yeah, it's a sad day in America. So-
Never forget is what they say, right? So let's not.
Nope. And again, while we're talking about it, to the police and the firemen, thank you very much for what you do for our city or for our country. To the veterans, we all appreciate you on both sides of the aisle. So anyway, thanks for what they do.
Yep. All right. Representative Reardon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had your husband on here. I'm sure you were listening a couple weeks ago.
You know what? All right. I didn't listen. until after the show. Like I knew he was going to be on, and so I listened to it later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was.
I've gotten heat for the things that Matt Reardon has said. in the past,
He was like
so-
a one-man wrecking crew, by the way.
So
Not in a good
I
way, I'm
just,
saying, during the campaign. He was all over social
Matt was-
media.
yeah.
I was like, does he
Well-
ever sleep?
Yeah.
Matt Reardon is either all in or he's all out.
He was all in.
No gray
doubt.
areas with
No
Matt
doubt.
Reardon. So
Yeah, so you said something interesting earlier that Matt had to have a loud voice because he was 10th of 11, right?
yeah, number 10 of 11.
Yeah, so I guess you do have to speak up a lot, right?
Indeed, if you want to be heard.
I think if you have a large family like that, you just stop naming the kids after like the 7th kid. You
Keep
know?
going or find
They just kinda,
apostles or
Just keep
saints.
opening
or,
the Bible.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's all
right.
you
They're
have to
like, what's your name again?
We got some Matthews,
Proverbs.
some Peters.
They're just like, we'll name you when you're 5. Let us figure it out. So, but anyway, we wanted to talk a little bit about, I wanted to get into your background. I know a lot about it, and so does Kevin, but I wanted to get it out there. I think it's a real interesting story, where you come from, because you came from a political family. Your mother was involved in politics. Your father's involved in politics also, right?
Well, my dad was the first Puerto Rican city councilman in East Chicago.
Wow.
In 1972. He was appointed to fill a special term, appointed by a special election to fill a vacancy created by, shockingly, Graft in Lake County.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even back
there was
then.
a caucus.
Yeah, even back then, it was
That's
a caucus.
crazy.
Yeah,
and that
it
was
a
before
caucus.
Mayor Pastrick had taken over at that
No.
point.
No, he was still
He
there.
was there.
Sure.
He was.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't mayor though at that
Yes,
point.
he
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s.
Yes, he
Absolutely.
was.
60s, I
Start doing
think.
your math.
Yeah, he was.
Don't forget,
It was
remember the picture of him and Bobby Kennedy coming to
But I
town?
know he started off as the clerk. I didn't realize he took over as
Yep.
mayor in the damn 70s. Holy
Yeah.
Toledo. He was there way
elected,
before my dad.
Yeah.
9 terms.
We go way back with the Pastrick
Yeah.
family. There was a Pastrick in every grade. We all went to the same grade school. There was a Pastrick in every grade of mine and my siblings.
So who's
classes.
the closest Patrick?
Susan and I were compatriots.
Okay.
We were best buds, and
Kevin and you got to be around the same age too, right?
Kevin, he's my brother Chris's age, so
Okay.
he's 2 years younger than I
Okay,
am. So
right.
Jennifer was Ray's age. Drew was Carlos's age. So it was Drew. Yeah. So we all had a Pastrick friend in our
So you grew
class.
up in EC.
I did.
And when did you move to Munster? Did that happen
In
after high school?
1978.
Okay, so you went to school in East Chicago.
I went to grade school there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. hmm
So you went to Munster High School for
I
high
did.
school?
I'm a
Gotcha.
Mustang. I'm in the
Okay.
Just
Mustang
like your
Hall
kids.
of Fame.
Your kids are too. You are in the Mustang Hall
I'm
of
in the
Fame.
Mustang Hall of Fame.
For what?
Yeah, she got put in.
For what?
Yeah.
Because I'm a
Look how
badass
cool she is.
Yeah, besides the fact you're a
legislator.
badass.
Hello.
For
Because,
what?
No, I didn't know. Like if you were like
Well,
a
it wasn't
famous
for-
athlete, or I'm like, come on.
It
like, I'm
wasn't for
asking her-
sports. It was because of your achievement, my
That's
achievements
awesome.
as an adult.
Really
first
cool.
Latina elected to the General
That's
Assembly,
really
first
cool.
Latina
When did
in
that
leadership.
happen, Mara? I never knew. I thought I knew a lot about
I don't know. It happened when my daughter was a senior, so she
gonna
was
say
like
3 years ago,
So what
maybe?
they do is they put this giant picture of your head in the hallway for the whole
Nice.
year.
I saw
There's
it
a
there.
row of giant heads in the
watching you.
hallway. So my daughter sends me a picture of her like this in front of my head,
awesome.
and
That's
she's
awesome.
like, not embarrassing at all. Walking by my mom every day.
So your dad, who's still with us, right?
Yes, he's
Yeah.
91.
91.
God bless him.
And then your mom was also involved in politics, right?
Well, she was not really a political person. She, other than being a delegate to the National Convention, but she was.
You and I were both delegates to the National Convention.
Yes,
a few
president
times over.
president of the Indiana Federation of Teachers.
Right. And she did that for how long?
15 years.
How long was your dad on the council for?
He didn't get reelected after his special election.
Okay, gotcha.
It was a time where it was their way or the highway, frankly.
There
And,
being the mayor.
There being the mayor.
Right.
And, Susan and I were best friends. And one day, we're at Susan's house. We'd go to her house or my house after school. And one day we're at Susan's house, and there's all this chanting and picketing and on the sidewalk. And, two little girls were like, let's go see who's out there. And I look, and I'm like, that's my dad.
Really? In front of the mayor's house, huh?
That was...
Oh, that's uncomfortable.
That was,
It'd be tough to get reelected.
Well, with his
in that
daughter-
That's
time.
my dad protesting.
And with his daughter hanging out with you, right?
I think it was a lesson that my dad taught me very early on that, you have to do the right thing because it's the right thing. It's not because of what, you're not there for political purposes. You're there to do the right thing. And, my dad was on the city council during a turbulent time when they were being investigated. Everybody was being investigated.
In East Chicago?
They were either being indicted
Yeah.
or interviewed.
That's
my
crazy.
dad wasn't even asked one question by the FBI.
Right.
That's who my dad is.
Right.
That's the example of public leadership that I got from my parents and
So,
from my dad.
So he runs for election. The machine in East Chicago runs against him, and he's no longer on the city council.
Right.
But your mom's still involved.
Yeah.
Peripherally, through the teachers.
Well, so my mom wasn't involved in politics at that time. My dad was like the big superstar, and then it was like a role reversal when my mom, ended up running for office within her union, and it was much later in the 80s and 90s.
So, did you know when you were a kid? Because I had no idea I would be an elected official. Did you know? Because, we both sort of grew up in similar type of families. Did you know that when you were young that you were going to run for office one day, or did you just...
I knew that, my parents, they were always doing something with a cause, right? Whether in the 60s it was the war on poverty, in the 70s it was the Equal Rights Amendment and the grape boycott. There was a decade of my life where I wasn't allowed to eat grapes, and I didn't understand it, but I knew,
Right.
And that's the kind of activism and leadership that I saw in my household, and that's the kind of life I wanted to live, whether that was in an elected position or in a support position, like when I worked for the congressman.
So talk, people may not understand the whole grape boycott and everything. I think Latin folks probably do, but why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about
Cesar
that?
Chavez and Dolores Huerta rallied the United Farm Workers, who were who still work in abysmal conditions today, but we're fighting for rights for farm workers, and they instituted a national boycott on grapes in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Really?
And you were part of it, so no grapes for you.
No grapes for me. I can remember sitting in that cart saying, "Tell me again why."
And you got involved with politics because you were a staffer at Congressman Visclosky's office.
Was that your first job in politics?
It was,
Yeah.
it was. I was a caseworker, and then I went on to be federal projects.
Really?
Yeah.
How long did you work with Congressman?
5 years.
Which is
Almost
interesting.
5 years.
That's one of the interesting angles about this, because when you end up running for Congress years later, I imagine, because of your loyalty to the congressman and working in his office, you probably felt like you had an opportunity to get the endorsement from the congressman.
Well, I think more than that.
Right.
For me, it was more than that. It was because I, look at the initiatives he's put forward in, the Little Cal. That's a federal project. Couldn't happen without state dollars. Couldn't happen without me, in particular,
Being
on
a
Ways
partner,
and Means.
being the state partner.
Being the state partner. Getting a $14 million appropriation is not easy
Right.
in the General Assembly.
In the minority.
Especially for a Democratic area.
Well, I think we were in the majority at the time, but soon
It's
to
like
be lost.
this much majority,
Yes.
right? 51-49
Exactly,
or whatever it was.
but they still controlled the Senate, so it didn't matter what you did in the majority in the House. You still had to get it through a Republican Senate, and so those projects, the South Shore expansion, that we worked on that for 5 years, and
Yeah,
so
2008 we started that.
That's why it wasn't because I thought he had some nostalgia for me being his projects coordinator or projects director. It was because I earned it. I earned the respect of being a legislator, and a really good legislator that really brought things home for our district.
Did you feel that he would stay out of it, or did you feel like, okay, I should get I'm going to get the endorsement?
My best hope was that he just stayed out of it. I never thought, and the more and more the more the campaign waned on, I think the more, even in the early days of the campaign, it was pretty clear to me after getting in and after the filing deadlines and all of those things that this was a long-term plan that had been hatched some time ago. Sure.
You felt
But you
that.
mean the Frank
felt that.
support of the congressman, his endorsement of Frank?
I think that was always going to happen.
For
yes.
sure. I agree
That
with
was
you.
always going to happen. It was, I like to call it the job security plan
Where do you think?
for some.
Where do you think that came
the
from?
job security plan for
I know what I think.
some people involved.
I know what I think, where that came from. I don't think it was driven as much by the congressman as much as the congressman's chief of staff personally, Mark Lopez.
Look, you're a 35-year member of Congress. You don't do what people tell you to do. If you're a 35-year member of Congress, you don't do what your staff tells you to do. It's the other way around. So
I agree with you, Mara. But you think that's really...
It lies, for whatever reason, it was his choice, and he made that choice.
Well, I agree with you. But also, I could tell you from my perspective as mayor that I thought Mark Lopez is always calling the shots as far as how Congressman Pete dealt with the local officials. Like, for instance, if I wanted to talk to the congressman about anything, I couldn't call him up. I couldn't meet with him directly. I had to meet with Lopez and explain to Lopez. And I always thought that was ridiculous. Like, you know, I'm an elected official, elected by 81,000 people. I'm the mayor of the largest city in the congressman's district. And if I want to speak to the congressman, I have to go to Lopez,
well, he was
bureaucrat.
Doing what he was told to do, frankly. I think that, you know, you're giving him a lot more credit.
Who?
You're giving the chief of staff a lot more credit. The tone is set by the member. You know, I mean, the truth of the matter is if the congressman doesn't want to be accessible, he's not going to be accessible.
There you go. Okay, so I agree with you. So the congressman gave Mark that power because he didn't want to deal with people like me, right? I mean, he didn't want to deal with people like us. If he doesn't want to deal with the mayor, he certainly doesn't want to deal with Hammond residents. That's all Mark's bullshit he has to handle, right?
That's how it works. And
staffer. But that's what Mara said. It's up to the congressperson. Like, I imagine if you were elected to Congress,
the buck stops with him.
If you were elected to Congress, if I was elected to Congress, we would have probably approached our jobs differently. But you're saying that this is probably how Pete Wiskoski approached his job. Is like, I don't want to deal with Tom McDermott.
Well, however, whatever layers he instituted. I mean, we saw Todd. I mean, he's not Todd Rokita. We saw Todd Rokita's 5-page instructions for somebody who was driving him.
God,
you know what I'm saying?
Forgot about that. You know, Jonathan needs to bring that out again. He needs to bring that out.
He will.
That's that's people deal with their staff differently, and that's how, those things stop with the member.
How was Pete when you worked for him? Was he like a good boss? Was he nice? Did he talk to you? Did he not talk to you?
It was a long time ago.
Because he doesn't. Of course, he doesn't
person.
know. He doesn't know you're going to go on to become a state rep.
No.
And
I'm just a minion at that point.
Right. You're just a regular.
I think Pete always treated us with respect. I mean, my dealings were much more with the chief of staff. There was a hierarchy. There was a structure in place, and
and that was before Mark was chief of staff too.
Yeah,
that was Chuck Brimmer, right?
Yeah, Mark was a minion too. At that point.
Speaking of, just kind of history a little bit, when was the first time you ran for state rep? We were trying to remember this yesterday.
2006.
That was right.
You were right. Yep, absolutely.
Before we get into that, could we go into the Roy Dominguez? Because I know that you worked for the former sheriff also. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Dominguez was also involved in our race, against us, and also lined up with the congressman on Frank Mervan's team. But I knew that you had a history with Dominguez as well, and believe me, get me started about that guy, and I'll go on forever. But
look, I worked for the sheriff doing substance abuse initiatives for the sheriff's department, running the Drug Free Alliance, and tried to get federal money, handed out grants. That's the kind of stuff that we did. And when I decided to run for office,
06.
Yes, and so that was I would say a cabinet level position. I was the executive director. I was, running a program that was housed in the sheriff's department. I was like any other department head.
But were you an actual county employee, or were you working?
I was a county employee.
Gotcha.
Yes. I had been instrumental, I like to think, in his election, and with everything from doing his Spanish language radio ads because he doesn't speak Spanish very well.
Really? I didn't know that about Roy.
And doing debate prep, those kinds of things. It was a natural course for me. He told me at the time that he wanted to support Latinas in leadership because he had 2 daughters and really wanted to see more Latinas elected. And if I would join the team at a very low salary, mind you, my husband was like, I'm paying the babysitter more than this. This is not a good ROI for our family.
Right.
But, Matt, always the supportive partner, said, let's, go ahead if that's what you want to do. So I started working there, and as soon as I declared I will give him props for one thing. We had planned on not announcing that I was running because John Aguilera was the presumptive.
That's what.
John Aguilera was the presumptive person.
We were trying to remember. I was thinking it was Dan Stevenson. It was John Aguilera.
John Aguilera, and was the presumptive, Democratic candidate, and for reelection, running for reelection, and we thought that there would be 15 people in the race if he had announced that he wasn't running. So we just decided we were not going to announce that. And I just filed at like 11:59 on,
the last day?
On the last day
Wow.
in Indianapolis.
So you were downstate, yeah.
And so everybody apparently went crazy in the county, and it was like a
So
big
did John,
scandal.
I don't remember, did John drop out at the last second then also?
He hadn't filed.
Okay.
He hadn't filed. He had just told
Were you the
people
only
he
one
was
that
going to
filed? I don't
file.
remember the primary.
I filed, and Alicia Lopez Rodriguez
That's
filed.
right.
And she had all the union support,
That's right.
all the precinct organization support. So we had no political endorsements. We had no union endorsements.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, that was Mayor Pabé's candidate. And so, everybody
And the district looked
had
a lot
rallied
different
behind
then.
her. But I talked to Roy the day before I was filing, because Matt Reardon, ever the man with integrity, said, you owe it to your boss to tell him that you want to do this. And I said, well, what if he spills the beans and our element of surprise is gone? And he said, doesn't matter, you got to do the right thing because it's the right thing. So the other person on my shoulder was not so. But we went, I did the right thing, and Roy did keep the secret. He did keep the secret, and but from that point forward, so that this is like February filing deadline. So from that point, from there until I was let go in December.
Right before
So
you
after
took
the
over.
election.
Oh,
After the election. I was let go in December after the election, but from that point forward in February to the November election, I wasn't allowed to speak to him unless I was spoken to. I wasn't
Those are
allowed to
interesting
contact
rules.
him. There was a lot of events that we had to coordinate with his schedule, and I wasn't allowed to do that. I had to go through other people to speak to him, and the only time that he spoke to me that I could speak to him was when he spoke to me. I had to follow this rigid structure, and for somebody who recruited me to his staff because he wanted to promote Latinas, that wasn't really, to me, very supportive.
It's a joke to me because, I know a lot about this guy. And one of the things, obviously he should have been proud of you running as a Latina and then getting elected as a Latina and becoming the first Latina member of the General Assembly. And you would think that, a Latino sheriff would support that. And then, years later, we have another sheriff who's running, Oscar Martinez. And I could tell you from firsthand knowledge, I tried to get these two on the same page because at the time I was friendly with the former sheriff, Roy, and I was pushing the current sheriff, Oscar Martinez, and it just made sense to me. These two should be friends. And I literally, and I could tell you honestly, I think Oscar Martinez is great. I think he's doing a great job as sheriff. It's Roy. Roy doesn't want other
He
Hispanics
wants to be the
successful.
only Latino
king.
superstar in the sky.
wants to
That
be
is
the king.
absolutely it. That is absolutely
I
true.
agree. I mean, and then because he's so smart, right? He's a smart lawyer guy, right? Lawyers are very smart, Kevin.
Hey,
Some
hey,
are.
hey.
Some are.
Well,
What the hell does that mean?
I'd say some lawyers are smart.
She said Tom, and you were like, some are.
I didn't.
Like,
No, I said it before she said Tom. We'll replay that.
As we were discussing today, you are the state representative on the day of the election at midnight.
That was interesting to me because I always thought it was January 1st.
No, and so you're the elected representative because we have to have all our bill requests and filings in by
That's
early
a good
point.
December.
That's true.
And so the sheriff fired me on December 31st because he thought I was taking
Happy New
office
Year.
on January 1st, right? It was an illegal firing. You can't fire a sitting state representative.
for their job.
That's right.
true. Holy Toledo. I didn't
And
even
I
think
could
about
have,
that.
I could have sued him, or I could have done all of those things. That wasn't, the taxpayers' money wasn't going to make me whole. The taxpayers' money, it wasn't how I wanted to start my legislative career by, suing somebody who had done me wrong.
But that's true, though. You could have done both
I
jobs.
could have been litigious.
You
Sure.
could have done both, though. You
Absolutely.
could
I
have been
could
his
have, yes,
person and
yes.
still,
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something Mara said I think is real important. And, you would think that Roy, in his position, would have wanted to promote other Hispanic candidates and help them be successful, but she hit the nail on the head, and I feel exactly the same way. As he wants to be the only successful Hispanic politician in the region, and anybody else is competition for him, including Mara.
That ship has sailed.
It has
Long
to.
time
I know,
ago.
but it's almost like he goes out of his way to sabotage other Hispanic candidates. Like he definitely does that with the current sheriff. If you're friends with Oscar Martinez, Roy will do everything he can to stab you in the back.
Well, that's an interesting
We don't
history.
have time for that. That's like a Facebook.
It could go on and
that's
on,
like
right?
Facebook
Facebook.
toxicity.
Back
I
to
don't
the
need that
sewer.
in my life.
Okay, so anyway, Mara,
I'm into yoga and meditation. I can't have that negativity.
you do look
in my
good, by
life.
the way. I haven't seen you in a while. You look good. You have a good aura about you. You look
I
like
said it lightened the place up when she walked in.
It, no,
Thank you.
it does look like you're in a good place. I feel good also, by the way. Like, it took probably a while after a race like we had
Sure.
to, like, become whole again. We'll get to that in a second. So 2006, you run in the primary. Did you destroy her? Was it a close race? I don't remember.
I don't even remember.
Was it close,
But
or you won
I
pretty
think
easily?
I won pretty handily.
What was the
I mean,
district then? Because it wasn't as it ended up.
It was
Chicago, Hammond?
East Chicago. I had East
Whiting?
Chicago, Hessville,
Whiting?
Whiting. I had all of Whiting. I had
North Munster.
part of Munster. I
Yeah,
had
North
I had
Munster.
the Republican part of. I mean, the Republican part of Hammond and the
Democratic part of Munster.
You were my state rep for a long time.
Yeah.
A decade.
Yeah.
Right.
How many terms?
5.
And there was what, you lost in 16 or 14? 14.
No, is it 6 terms?
I thought it was more than that.
It's
More than 4.
It's 6 terms.
You did
6.
2 after you came
I'm in my
back, right?
6th term right now. Yeah,
Okay.
I did 2. Yeah,
2 after you came back, right?
yeah.
Okay,
For-
you came-
I lost in 14.
right.
I lost in
that's what we
14,
thought.
was
So you
reelected
won
in
16, you won 18, and then you ran in
Yeah,
Congress
yeah.
in 20. Gotcha. Okay. What's the major accomplishments when you were in the State House? Obviously, a lot of them.
I think so. For me, I think the biggest accomplishment I would say is those 2 projects that I was able to work on, and on the Ways and Means Committee, funding budgets that provide $14 million for the state of Indiana. Finding a local funding mechanism and working towards a local funding mechanism for the maintenance of that $14 million investment, right? I mean, we want to make sure that what happened, that project, that was a federal project, it languished for 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
$1 million
and it was a
year.
huge accomplishment. And it was a
30
big fight,
years.
too.
It was a huge
yeah,
fight.
yeah.
That was a couple of years, by the
Yeah,
way.
it was.
I was part of
Couple
the
sessions.
fight.
Yep. You
Yeah, but like,
testified.
by the way, like, it works great right now. I
It's
think
awesome.
Dan Repay's doing a great job in his position. He's got a great board.
They're
doing
funded.
Great work. And by the way, huge fan. Tom McDermott's a huge fan because of not only are they fixing the levees, but when they fix the levee, they're making trail connections that could not have existed.
And
without
east-west
political-
trail connections,
East-west
which, right,
along
those
the
were always
river.
what we didn't have. We always had north-south,
So,
or
like,
everybody's working on north-south,
Not
but not
only
east-west.
are we protecting your homes, we're also allowing you to recreate in the area we're protecting. It's just amazing. I mean, that I tell you, knowing what I know now, there's no way I would have been protesting against it like I did the first year, the first time this came up. It's turned out spectacular. So
It has.
Great. Well, let's take a break. We're going to come back with, you walking,
Get into
you and
2020?
the Democrats walking out to Champaign and talk about some other things. It's going to be
Okay.
exciting second half of the show. Let's do some sponsors, Mayor.
All right, let's go. Ron Prestemmer Agency. Looking for insurance? Question. Welcome to the Ron J. Prestemmer Insurance Agency, located for decades close by in Hammond on Indianapolis Boulevard. They specialize in a wide variety of insurance products and services, including business insurance and much more. The Prestemmer Agency serves over 1,000 people and businesses all around Chicagoland in the Midwest area.
Thanks, Ron and
They're
Ronnie,
they're my insurance
They
agent.
are our business insurance agency.
right.
Good guys, and happy to have them as sponsors on the show. Thanks, Ron and Ronnie. Emerald Green Restaurant. Emerald Green is a fine dining experience located at beautiful Lost Marsh Golf Course, just off the Indiana Toll Road. Come enjoy the patio with a great view of Chicago, or dine inside at the beautiful clubhouse and bar. Open year-round. We also have a banquet hall for all your catering needs. Come enjoy our family-friendly environment, great Italian food, and more. Visit their website for more information at emeraldgreen@lostmarsh.com.
If you want to learn how to become a sponsor on our show, I'm going to have Lindsay come on at the end of this so she can explain how to
Absolutely.
do that. Nuevo Leon Tortillas. The Martinez family has been Chicagoland's tortilla brand
that?
since 1975, making flour and corn. That was good, wasn't it?
She was impressed. She gave the thumbs up.
I took 5 years of Spanish 1. I know what I'm doing. So Patrick's taking Spanish this year, right?
Like Spanish 3.
And he asked me some of it, and I was cranking it out. Like, I still remember my Spanish 1. I didn't do well in Spanish 2, though. So the Martinez family has been Chicagoland's tortilla brand since 1975, making flour and corn tortillas and nacho chips that you can find in your local supermarket. Look for our familiar red and white logo. Visit our website at tortillasnuevoleon.com for more info.
This is a new sponsor, too, the Committee to Elect Adrian Santos. Adrian Santos, the longtime East Chicago City Clerk, is asking for your continued support. Clerk Santos has years of service to his community and is an elected official that is trustworthy and effective. He has been a loyal public servant for nearly 17 years and asks that you consider continuing to support him in the future. Thanks, Adrian.
Jeremy Rivas for Porter County 2nd District County Council. Jeremy Rivas is a blue-collar, down-to-earth elected official who has represented Porter County residents with their issues in mind. If you want representation from somebody who understands what it's like to be a union member, who fights for the average person, and who is trustworthy, Jeremy Rivas deserves your vote and support. Visit his Facebook at Rivas for 2nd District for more info.
Thanks to our sponsors.
Yeah, Lindsay, if you want to become a sponsor, how do you do so?
Hello, guys.
Hello,
if you
Lindsay.
want to give us money and also be exposed to thousands of people who listen to our show on Facebook and on Apple Podcast, all you need to do is contact me directly. My name is Lindsay McDermott on Facebook, or you can send a DM, which is a direct message to Left of Podcast Facebook.
Thank you.
Of
Left of
course.
I was like, what's a DM?
You could also email me if you want at lindsaymcdermott1992@gmail.com.
All right.
All of Lindsay's info right there.
Yep,
Yep.
that's all
Out
you
in
need
the
to know.
open. Thanks, Linz.
Okay, so are we jumping into 2020?
Sure. Although I do want to make sure we talk about, because I think that's an important thing that defines, not necessarily defines Mara, but at least talk about, because it comes up a lot, right?
Well, yeah,
And
the union issue.
Yeah, and kind of like, I want to hear Mara's perspective on it, because a lot of people say, oh, the Democrats walked out, they went to Champaign.
So
but
what
I
year
think
is
it's
this? This is like...
2000, when was
No,
it?
it was before that.
It was 8.
2008.
Right,
Okay, so
2008.
President Obama's year, right? It's
I think it was
presidential year.
8. I think it was 8. We
Was it?
redrew,
Hold it.
We redrew
Because
the
you-
maps in 2010, and
Hold
we
it.
lost.
It was no.
So
It had to be
2011,
then.
right?
It had to be 11 because you guys were in the minority then. The
No.
only thing you had. I thought by
Well,
leaving.
yes, we
you
were in the
prevented a
minority.
quorum.
We were in the minority.
Right. So it had to be 11, right?
No, because we lost the minority in 8.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
they drew the maps
Okay.
in 2010,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha.
They
So-
draw them in 11. They draw them in 11. They do them after the Secretary
Right,
of State's race.
right.
So
But whoever's in charge in 2010, whoever wins
Right.
the 2010 election, goes into the session to draw the
Right.
maps.
And then, so this is about right to work, which
Yep.
is a law that basically is harmful for the unions. It allows people to basically free ride with
It
their
does.
union dues.
It does.
Right.
It does.
And obviously, the unions in Indiana at the time were fighting tooth and nail. This is being pushed by the Republican governor at the time, who was Mitch Daniels, who's now the president of Purdue University. He has majorities, not super majorities at that point. Well, super majority in the Senate and a majority in the House, if I remember correctly, right? Mm-hmm. And Mara at the time and her team, Pat
the
Bauer.
whole caucus. Yeah.
Pat Bauer was the leader, the
Yep.
minority leader at the
Yep.
time. And obviously the writing was on the wall. This is something that the governor was pushing and the legislature was into it. And really the only recourse, like if we do it traditionally, we're going to lose, right? Meaning the Democrats aren't going to be able to protect the unions. So at
Well,
the
we wanted
time,
to slow down the process and give us an opportunity to try to put public pressure on the other elected officials, the other legislators, and put that public pressure, by filling the state house. And I've never seen a state house that
Yeah,
full.
I agree with you.
And
the
teachers
30,000.
the teachers had an amazing rally
Right.
last year, but it didn't come close to
Right.
Right to
the
work.
kind of organization that we saw with Right to Work. And for a lot of that, we didn't really get to see it because we were in Urbana, right? So we didn't really get to see firsthand.
why Urbana, by the way?
Just because it was over the Indiana-Illinois border,
Mm-hmm.
close to where we were. There were some people that had ties to Urbana, like somebody's district was nearby there, and they knew where we could,
That's where
get
University of Illinois is,
accommodations
right?
And, yeah.
Right.
How many
Champaign.
days?
I think it was like 6 weeks,
It
right?
was a long
It was
time.
a long time. It was a
Really?
long time, yeah.
And so you get. It
My
seems-
kids still talk about their spring break in Urbana.
what a family vacation.
It
right?
was,
I mean,
it
it seems
was.
like there's definitely some criticism of that, but I kind of sense that you feel like it's a sense of pride still
Well, and
about
the
what you did.
criticism certainly comes. Matt Reardon criticizes it all the time. I mean, we did it at a cost, and I can remember. It was a very serious thing for us to vote and to go do that, and I can remember them saying that there was all kinds of rumors that Mitch Daniels was going to send state troopers
Right.
to stop us from leaving the
Right.
state.
But they couldn't do that outside of the state. They could have
Right.
they
No,
could have
but
seized
on
you
our
and-
way,
Right.
right. We were all leaving from different places and different times, and so it was one day to the next. It wasn't like I could come home, pack my bag, and leave. I was leaving from Indianapolis. We were all like, "Okay, let's go. Everybody, go back to your place, get your bag, go back to your temporary housing, get your bag, and go." We didn't know how long we were going to be there. We didn't, and in retrospect, I think it was poorly executed. I will say that if I have one regret, it was not asking questions about what's our plan back. we didn't have a strategy,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and that's where we failed. I don't think we had a strategy for coming back.
It was definitely used as a weapon that the Democrats ran.
Oh, my
and
gosh,
that was
yes.
we heard that for years.
I had mailer after mailer
Mm-hmm.
after mailer, and I won the election right after that and lost the one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Do you
one removed.
Do you consider that was a factor in your loss?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Bill Fine was using that.
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
No doubt.
he was beating on. I remember
yeah.
the race pretty
No
well. It was
doubt.
an ugly
Yeah.
race.
It was an
You
ugly
barely
race.
lost that race too.
It was an ugly race. 400 some votes,
Yeah,
I think.
right.
Yeah. It was an ugly race. And frankly, it was Indiana had the dubious distinction of having the lowest voter turnout in the nation during
remember that.
during that
I
election.
remember that.
So
13%.
I think
yeah.
for me, what hurt me is our Democrats didn't show up.
Right.
Our Democrats didn't show up. And in Lake County, once the primary's over, people are like, oh, whew, it's over.
By
No,
the way,
it's not.
That's interesting is going back to the issue about why you guys left in the first place to protect the unions and what you guys did and what you did sacrificing your career, because you did lose a race shortly thereafter.
I did.
Because you went across the state lines to prevent the vote from happening on
Mm-hmm.
right to work. So you would think that garners you a bunch of credibility with union members, right?
You would think that, sure. I mean, I'm loyal to the people who are loyal to me, and who you can't, and there are a lot of when the steelworkers looked at us in our eyes in Urbana and said, "We will never forget the sacrifice you're making here today." I took them at their word.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
I took them at their word, and unfortunately, it didn't work out that way when I needed help.
Well, let's fast forward to that. Let's go ahead. What are you referring to?
So, I'm referring to the congressional race. And it's so interesting because during this pandemic, right, the leadership has determined that they're going to support the congressman in his reelection campaign. I'm sorry, I didn't mean reelection. I meant control of the election. And so, it was a tough one to take. You were there after I spoke.
Right after Mara.
You were there right after I spoke. I had a very warm reception. People were very, and there was division in the room.
And you're talking about the candidate interviews with the United Steelworkers
yes.
in this race,
Now,
the
picture
2020
this.
race.
There's like 50 people in a room, and they're all steelworkers from different unions, and they have like the whole room is like they're sitting on the outside, and they put the candidate right in the middle, so you're
At a
surrounded
table.
by steelworkers.
That's a tough crowd to be in.
Mara
front
did
of.
a good job. I was right after her. Okay, and then I killed it. Like I felt extremely positive when I left there, and
And I'm sure you did too.
It didn't matter though, right?
I felt positive, but it, at the same time, so the thing that I was going to say that's interesting about that is that after we're going to go with Pete, and, frankly, I got that call from Jerome Davison. I got that call from Jerome, and I just said, I can't tell you how disappointed I am. I can't tell you. So that was during session. I heard nothing, no public announcement. Then the morning of their endorsement, 15 minutes before the press conference, Saturday morning at 9:30 in the morning, I get a phone call from the congressman that he too is going to be supporting another candidate. And so, it all certainly, maybe it took me a minute, but it all certainly I knew that it all came together for me at that moment, certainly. And,
it's like a double gut punch, really.
it really was difficult.
That was what, March?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were still in session.
For me, I knew right off the bat when Frank announced it, he was getting supported. I just knew. I didn't know for sure, but I knew. It's like there's no way Frank does what he does without knowing that he's
I thought, how are these union guys going to wake up and look themselves in the mirror knowing what I've done, sacrifice not only my political office, but $10,000 in pay, another, chunk in fines, all of those things that, because, and I would, and unfortunately, I heard from a union official who said, we don't really have to support you because we know you're going to do the right thing anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Wow, and the truth is, that's what you've always said. I do the right thing.
But
I would do it again, knowing what I know now. I would, So what I was going to say is that, during this time period, I'm also getting phone calls from rank and file steelworkers, rank and file other union members saying, I really need help with my unemployment claim. Can you help me? And of course, I do the right thing. So,
For sure, that's your job.
So while
you're a good elected
I would
official,
say,
right?
and I would say, what can I do to help you? And they would say, what can I do to help you? And I said, well, I think your leadership has already spoken. They haven't spoken for me,
Yeah,
and
right.
so.
I mean, you got the same thing, right, Mayor? I
Oh,
mean, you
sure.
got the same
Sure.
thing.
Sure, yeah.
But it is what it is. When people show you who they are,
Well, the interesting
Gotta
thing,
believe them.
going back to the unions again, and knowing what the Democratic Party did to protect the unions and to do everything we could to prevent right from work from happening, knowing that it was being pushed by Mitch Daniels at the time in the Republican Party, and here we are in the age of Trump, and you look at the unions, and the unions are straight up supporting Republican candidates. So a lot of them supporting the Republican governor. A lot of union members are proud in their support of President Trump.
It's just amazing. I mean,
do they
it's not
forget-
really amazing to me anymore. It
Do
just
they
is-
forget where their union rights were stripped away in Indiana? It was because of the Republican Party. And
Well, I can tell you that the unions have really felt that they need to support. There's people that gave money to you, that gave money to the other candidates, that gave money to me, and there's people that do that. And then there's people like Matt Reardon. He's either with you or he's not with you.
You said he's
and
all
he'll
in?
tell you. And he'll tell you that, right? He's not the guy to sprinkle the infield with cash. That's not Matt. The unions have felt that they need to sprinkle the infield with their support.
because of Indiana
Because
is so
of
red.
Indiana is so red. And, the same time, when Pat Bauer was negotiating the budget, they were hosting a fundraiser for Pat Bauer. The building trades were hosting a fundraiser for Pat Bauer. How is he supposed to negotiate a budget when, a big base of our support is hosting an event for the Republican governor? So those are the kinds of things that, they're a little schizophrenic in their viewpoints. And
So going back to the day, it was the day after municipal elections. I remember it very well. I was literally like, just got elected. I was straight up. I was going to run against Pete Wiskoski. I don't think that was a big secret. I'm right, Mara? You knew that, right? Did you know that for sure? I had headquarters. I was planning on running against Pete Wiskoski before he dropped out.
I've heard rumblings about that.
Yeah,
for years.
there was nothing.
There was rumblings for years.
Well, there was rumblings for years, but in 2020, I was doing it. Like, I knew that. Kevin knew that. A few people close to me knew that. But, so the day after the municipal election, we have a target date in mind. We were going to announce, what was it, in December, right, Kevin?
Yep, December 6th or 8th.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I got a couple weeks before my next war starts, and then the world changes. Pete Wiskoski resigns, right? When that happened, did you know right away you were running? Did it take you a while?
Well, so I landed in Mexico City that morning, and I turned my phone back on, and it was like
500 messages, right?
a million messages. And so I was there for a binational. I'm a binational fellow of an organization called Hispanas. What is it called? Hope. Hispanas for Organized for Political Equity. Hope. So I'm a Hope fellow. It's like I said, it's a binational, so it's United States and Mexico, and we're there for the geopolitical, economic talk of the portion of the program. And so, throughout that, I was surrounded by women leaders from 2 countries and from all over our country. And they were, it was a topic of discussion. We talked about it for a really long time. I started getting calls from people that I had worked with in the past on my campaigns, media people, mail people, those, that network of national operators. And so, I came home and I had to have a conversation with Matt. It wasn't something that I was just going to say, I think that men oftentimes, jump into things and say, well, me too. And you had been thinking about it for a very long time. Yeah. But I wasn't going to be that person, right? That person of the other, let's say, of the other 12 candidates and said, wait a minute, I want to do that too. I wanted to make sure that I had a path. I wanted to make sure that I could raise the money. I wanted to make sure my family was okay with it. I mean, those are things I didn't jump in immediately
Right.
because I wanted to make sure that I put all the pieces in place that were going to help me be successful.
One thing I know,
I wanted to do it in a very methodical and.
Mara and I have been friends for a long time, and so obviously that was tough on our relationship during the time. One thing I knew about Mara from being friends with her and also being familiar with Melissa was Mara and Melissa Borum were very good friends. And I say were because I'm not sure where they are right now, but so much so I know that they went places together and hung out together socially. And Mara's a couple years older than Melissa. Literally, probably only a couple, but still a couple years older than Melissa. And I think
so kind.
I am, but I think Mara sort of pictures her role with Melissa as like a mentor. Trying to, and I sort of consider myself a mentor to Melissa. Also, I thought Melissa was the type of person that had a great future in politics, and I was trying to help her land on her feet. Where should you live physically so you could be successful in any future run for office? Melissa Borum throws her name in. I wasn't too intimidated by that because I was looking at factors in my campaign, but I was thinking to myself, damn, I would love to be a fly on the wall on Mara's house right now when she heard that happened, because for Melissa to run and Mara, her being good friends and possibly splitting up the women vote.
Well, my concern was, first and foremost, truly my concern with that was that I felt that she was being manipulated. I felt that she was being fed a line of BS that she could win. And, every one of our polls showed, and I shared this with her at some point during the election, that didn't even show her within the margin of error of the poll.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, I felt that, she was being used, and that was unfortunate because I think she's exactly the kind of candidate that we need to be encouraging in this county.
Without a doubt.
Young, educated, a tenacious worker. She's a very hard worker. I have nothing bad to say about her. That was my concern. My concern.
Mara, when you said that you thought she was being used, did you feel that she was being used in a way that was harming your candidacy, or just used in general to be in?
I think it was absolutely clear to me that I felt that she was being used, and in order to absolutely put another woman of color in the race. I was never going to be allowed to be the only woman in color.
Because it was like that for a while. When we first filed, you were the only woman in the race for a few weeks, right?
I don't know. When did Sabrina? She went in pretty early. Sabrina went in pretty early.
Yeah.
Okay. But I know that at the time, there was a period of time where you were the only woman on the ballot, and I was like, Mara's got a real chance if she's the only woman on the ballot, and we got a bunch of men fighting against each other.
Right.
And then Sabrina came in, you're right, and then Melissa came in, and I was like, damn, that's not going to sit well
and
with
then
Mara.
Carrie Castro came in.
Yeah.
She ran
and went. Came and went.
Right. Came and went very quickly.
Was she actually on the ballot? She took a space?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
don't think so.
No?
I don't remember.
Yes.
She was on the ballot?
She was?
Yes.
Good Lord.
I think so.
Yeah.
Talk about just throwing in another Hispanic name.
Another thing about Mara that I thought was pretty raw towards Mara was the teacher's endorsement. I mean, no one...
Again, it's just like the steelworker thing. You know what I mean? It's just like the steelworker and the union thing. It was a huge disappointment to me, and not, honestly and truly, not because of my mother's legacy. It was, I felt that I had been in battle with both of these organizations, side by side, in battle. And the battles that I fought, I would fight again because it was the right thing to do. Public education is under attack, and it's wrong. Do I believe that the leadership, but you also have to figure, that they're going to go with who the congressman wants. That is something that was completely underestimated, I think, by a lot of campaigns. For sure. That's who they're going to go for. When the congressman puts his finger on the scale and resources and everything for another candidate, it's a really tough road.
Yeah, and I think that's something, I would absolutely admit that was underestimated by me, the power of his endorsement and his 36 years of dealing with the teachers union, the steelworkers, and everybody else. And when that happened, it was definitely a changer in the huge change. Right, shift change in the campaign. So
I want to start off. I want to say that we talked with Mara before the show, obviously, and we agreed. Mara, there's a lawsuit pending with the Attorney General, and Mara is not allowed to talk at all about Curtis Hill and that whole situation. And I want to make that clear that we're not avoiding this on purpose, and Mara's not avoiding it on purpose. She's being told by her
She's
lawyers.
taking lawyer's advice, which is probably good.
So we're trying to steer clear of that, but I'm trying to poke around the edges because there's one issue that came up at a neighboring radio station with a host named Verley that I thought was preposterous when it came out of her mouth. And thankfully it was picked up by the local media, and she was sort of shamed because she said something to the effect that...
There's no shame in her game. Sorry.
I agree. But she said something to the effect that, if you can't handle getting sexually harassed, then how are you going to be an effective congressperson in Washington, D.C.?
The last time I checked, I don't think sexual harassment is in the congressional job description. I don't think anybody in any work environment needs to be able to put up with anything from anybody.
But she did say that, right?
Absolutely. It was more
It's
like...
kind of questioned your toughness.
Yeah, it questioned my toughness.
Oh, you can't handle getting your ass squeezed.
Right,
how are you going to be an effective congressperson, right?
Right.
Ridiculous.
Well, and maybe that's because she was a flight attendant and she put up with it. I wasn't going to.
We'll let that sit out there.
Not sure.
Maybe there's no shame in her game. That could be a good episode title, by the way.
There you go. I like
good
it.
work. See, we knew somebody smart would
Somebody
come up with it.
That's why we wait. No shame in her game.
That's great.
That is great.
Right before we went live, we said, "What's the title?"
And then we just had to wait for Mara to come
and
up
I
with
want to
something that
ask you
rhymed.
some questions too, Tommy.
This is I don't know about this.
She's been holding this paper.
I don't know about this.
You can ask me these same questions if you want.
Okay,
You can
let's
shoot them
go.
back
Here
at
we
me.
go.
But
I don't know. This is
you already
unprecedented.
kind of...
Well, we're out of time. No.
You already kind of touched on some of them.
Sure. She comes with questions. What the hell's
Written,
going on here?
typed.
This is bullcrap.
Well,
I have a feeling Matt Reardon's behind this.
No, are you kidding?
I doubt that. I think we know who the boss is.
Matt Reardon could talk to a tree stump extemporaneously. That's not me.
He's probably doing that right now.
If Matt Reardon did it, there'd be F words all through the questions.
That's right. The cuss
We
counter
haven't
would be
dropped any
mustard.
F-bombs, have we?
No. Maybe it's in the question, though. We'll see.
Well, so you asked me a little bit about this. When was the first time you thought about being in the United States Congress?
Okay.
First time ever or this time around?
I've always thought about it, but I'll be honest with you. I never really thought it was the perfect job for me. I never did because I don't really, and I don't know if I would have been happy.
And I find that interesting for you to say that because knowing you for a long time and knowing your personality, and I'm going to say this in the most diplomatic way possible, is that I think you're much more suited for an executive role.
Mara,
I don't believe,
agree.
and because I know what the legislative process is, I know how collaborative it is, and I also know that you have to talk to a lot of people that you disagree with wholeheartedly, that you have to find common ground, and it's not a my way or the highway situation. And I said that from the very beginning when somebody would ask me, and I would say, I really believe that he's much more suited to an executive role than a legislative role.
I appreciate that. I think some of it was definitely ego driven on my part, without a doubt. And this is like me being reflective months later.
Well, so that goes into the why did you want to run for Congress?
I mean, it was the next ladder up for all of us, right? I mean, we're all type A's.
It really wasn't that for me.
But it's an opportunity to advance your career. It's definitely higher than being mayor, right? And quite frankly, the fact that I may have been like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole didn't really faze me that much because I thought that,
I think one of the things that Tom always said to us internally was like, I really am going to get the opportunity to lead the whole district like I've led Hammond. True. And I want to do that. I want to be able to, my feeling is that we don't have a congressman that fights for us. And I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to get out there and say, I want to do this for the whole district. And he said that at a lot of campaign rallies. And internally, he said it. This is, when we start figuring out what's the campaign and what's the message, right?
But I'm also being, that's the message.
Well, I mean,
the message we're putting. I'm not going to go out and say this is being ego driven by me on the campaign trail.
No. You're being reflective now. I'm just saying that there also was a good reason, in my opinion.
I would have done a good job. I know Mara would have done a good job. I think Frank will do a good job. Don't get me wrong. But definitely representing parts of Porter County and Michigan City, I love the region. I love the region. I really do. People bang on the region. I love living here. I love the people. I love the whole, I love going out to Michigan City and seeing what's out there. So that would have been exciting for sure. And that doesn't mean that the door is closed in that regards to me either.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think, I really thought that I thought about being in Congress before I became a state legislator, before I even started being a legislator. When I worked in Pete's office, it was like that moment that I thought was never going to be attainable for me. I thought it would never happen because I thought that, you would have to pull the power from Pete's cold, dead hands. And as it turned out, I was right.
That's
so,
awesome. That could be the name too. Pull the power from his cold dead.
That's the
and
subtitle.
so, you know,
That's the second
I
line.
really, you know, and I loved being a legislator. I loved the process. I was really good at it, you know. I talk about this with people all the time. You know, I wasn't able to raise over $350,000 because, you know, and I'm sorry, I have to say this. This is why I asked you about the Congress thing, because there's not a law firm in Indiana that you are not conflicted out of.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a law
We do a lot
firm.
of
I mean, I'm
there's one
gonna
that
tell
sues me frequently. That's about the only one.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You employ all of them because I've called all of them and
I've
asked
been
them
there
for money.
16 years.
And it's, well, I'm saying you have that's why I asked about the run for Congress, because it seemed very strategic to me to hire one for the water department, one for the police, one for the fire, one for the this, one for that. I raised that money
Nobody said I'm a dumb guy.
without one vendor, without one employee,
No, Mara, you did great.
and without
Well, you've got national.
without, you know, exactly. And that's what I was getting at is that, you know, some people collect snow globes. I collect relationships and people. And so for me, it was my national network that I've been engaged with. And even my State House network, I got a donation from Senator Luke Kenley, for God's sake.
Nice.
Yeah, I think-
I love
You
Luke
know,
Kenley. He's a great guy.
And so that to me was the coalition that I was building, right? That was, you know, to me, a bipartisan, national focused, and I felt that I would be the kind of congresswoman. I wanted to be the kind of congresswoman that raised not only, you know, the office, but, you know, I've always been accessible. I've always tried to help other candidates. I wanted to be that person. You know, there are people that are toiling away in Posey County for 30 years in the Democratic Party, and they've never laid eyes on the most senior member of our delegation. Pete had an opportunity to raise the party and build a bench in Indiana, and that's the kind of congresswoman that I wanted to be.
And Pete was
that's
not
why I
interested in
did
that.
it. And not only for political purposes, but because I was good at it. I'm a really great legislator, and this is a legislative job, and I felt like, wow, this is a great fit
heard
for
that
me
during
and
the
a new
campaign.
challenge.
So are you interested in running again? I mean,
I'm not going to say never, but that's not something that, I mean, I think
you're
that
not
I'm
done
looking
in
for
politics, right?
What does the future hold for Mara?
I am not interested in running for public office. Look, I've lived a public life for 14 years. You know, I've heard all the rumors, right, that I'm going to run for North Township trustee.
I've heard
Look,
that
I don't want to give out loaves of bread and jars of peanut butter and cut the grass at the cemetery. That's not for me.
it's a boring job. I
That's
agree.
not for me. Let somebody else do that. I was a kick-ass legislator, and that's so.
Mara
Wherever,
was, by the way,
wherever-
could I say something? Mara was tough as nails in the State House. That's why I love dealing with Mara as a legislator. She
Between
was tough.
her and Linda Lawson, we had some very tough
But
women.
the thing about
representing the
Mara,
region.
honestly, if she told you she was with you, she through freaking thick and thin, and her and I have been through some goddamn wars together. Like Mara was tough as nails in the State House, and I loved that about her when she was my rep, or even when she wasn't my rep, we still worked together on issues. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I was the person that you came to in the delegation.
if you needed
you know?
somebody to be tough, I would go to Mara, and if Mara said she had your back, it was a good thing because she'd
Well, and I
stick with
think
you
what
even if you
you're-
were like one of the few fighting for that issue.
And what you're seeing, and is a very, to me, is a very, because I didn't know Carolyn Jackson at all, and before she came to the legislature,
great.
and I'm going to tell you, she's that person.
I agree with you.
She's going to be
She's
your
tough.
go-to person.
How about her first year in the
She's
State
gonna
House?
be your
We were in
go-to
World War-
person.
We were in World War III. Carolyn's first year in the State House, and we
Oh,
had
with
the
the
Gary
casino.
Casino. I felt so bad for her. It's like she had no time to like make friends.
Well,
it's like
she-
right off the bat, her city is under attack, and we're like, you
And
have
she
to
was
fight
loyal.
for her. She was totally.
She
was a rock
is,
star.
and she's smart,
She
and
is.
she is, you know, engaged in the process. She's always prepared.
She's
I'm
going to be a
tell
guest
you,
on
she's-
Left of Center.
She's going to do well for you.
I
She's
agree.
going to do well for
I
you.
agree.
I feel good about
So
it.
Mara, if we just kind of wrapping up a little bit, what if we said, what's Mara doing in a year from now? What do you see?
Well, as I said, I love being a legislator. I love the big conversations. I love not giving out the jar of peanut butter, but actually changing the policy that prevents somebody from needing a free jar of peanut butter. That's the kind of thing that I like to continue to be engaged in large conversations about policy. So I don't really know what form or fashion that's going to take yet, but I'm in conversations with several options that are presented to me.
But you want to be engaged.
But I want to continue to be engaged. I mean,
great.
I can't forget that black men are dying in the street. I can't forget that kids are in cages in El Paso, Texas on the border right now as we speak. Those are things that matter to me. Those are the things that, I want to continue to be engaged in. Public education continues to be under attack. Those are the things that, in some form or fashion, I will continue to be engaged in a public discourse. But I can tell you that I'm not, the rumors, we could talk a little bit about the rumors that I was going to run for township trustee, or that you and I, How's this working for us, by the way?
I like it.
How's this working for us, by the way?
This is going.
I'm in the race because you're going to give Matt Reardon contracts. And I was like,
Matt Reardon and I have been doing business for a long time.
Well,
so.
And furthermore, like, really? How does that work? Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna run against you so that you'll give me contracts?
Right. Sounds like a
I'm not
great
quite
idea.
sure how that,
Yeah.
or the other thing I heard was that I was gonna be your district director.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that's why you were.
That's
running.
why
I was
those
like,
people-
yeah, if I were 28 years old, I'm a grown-ass woman. No.
I love that. That's why those people aren't making decisions. They're just bringing up conspiracy theories.
I always, when I was running and you were running,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought, I was waiting for it. Kevin and I talked about this often. I was waiting for AOC to endorse you. I thought for sure it was coming. If there was any candidate in the race that she would.
Just for all the audience watching out there, all Latinos don't know each other.
No,
And frankly, I was not left enough for AOC.
Really?
Certainly.
Did you try?
No.
Really?
No,
I
wasn't
honestly
this district.
thought.
That isn't this district.
Really?
I agree with
That
you.
was the rumor that she was going to come do a rally for me.
Yeah,
That isn't this
that was
district.
the rumor.
And I mean, you saw Harper trying to be the AOC of
That's
Northwest
right, be
Indiana.
the
It didn't.
progressive.
It didn't
Don't get me
play.
started.
There's
Well, I
a small
remember-
little band of Bernies, and that
Right.
band of Bernies couldn't get him over the finish line.
I remember when you had a challenger in your rep race that was a way left and progressive, and you made a point to saying that's not me. So that, I
Yeah,
thought that
that's
was
not me.
interesting.
So I knew that
You
we
got
were
any more
never.
questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so we're firing like, you got one and we fired like five back at you.
Well, that was all the first three were kind of the same. Why did you want to run?
Mm-hmm.
When did you first think about it? What do you think the best part of being in Congress would have been?
Good question. The fact that we would have been able to help our broken system. I mean, honestly, like when I look at DC, I feel bad as an American. I mean, I'm patriotic. I don't look at a Republican as an enemy just because they're a Republican. I'm a Democrat, but I consider myself, my dad's a Republican, for God's sakes, right?
I'm married to one.
Right, you're married
Yes.
to one, right? I mean, we all know very good friends and family members that are Republicans. I wanted to be the guy that went to Washington, D.C. and worked with both sides. And I sort of saw myself as a centrist pulling people together. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go in there and be like, hey, I'm on this team, you're on that team, we can't talk to each other. I really thought that I'd be part of the solution. Like people like me going in there. And you mentioned it earlier, getting an endorsement from Luke Henley. I would have been doing the same kind of stuff. By the way, I love Luke Henley. He's a great guy.
He is.
It hurts me that
He does a lot of work for.
It hurts me that he donated to you.
We have a relationship.
He's a good dude. We had a relationship too. Not that good, obviously. Mike Andrade, running for your seat. Mm-hmm. He's a great candidate, right?
Mike is a really, really great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's very tenacious. He's a hard worker. I think he wants to do the right thing. And, I think he's going to be successful. I think he's going to be successful.
Oh, I think he's going to win.
I think he's going to be successful.
He's
I
running
think
very
that
hard.
He is running very hard, and
He's an impressive
it's not an easy run. It's not an easy district.
Mm-hmm.
It's
not an easy
It's like a
district.
52-48 district,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
52 to the Republican, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Which
that
is even
shows-
more impressive that you.
Yeah.
Mara had total control of that district. And
Well,
so much so that,
There was a blip in the radar.
yeah, but like that happens, when you run every 2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think to me that is what was one of the hardest things, to pick myself up and dust myself off. And the day after the election, I said, I'm never doing this again. I threw out like $3,000 worth of yard signs. I was like, I'm done.
Let's burn these.
Yeah, and my daughter, who was 14, 16 at the time, she said, Mom, it's okay. You can be mad and you can be sad, but when you're done, we have work to do.
Yeah, it's
So-
Love
funny.
that.
I went through, this is my first loss, and it took me, I don't know, a couple weeks where I was really like down in the dumps. I wasn't never like over the top. I
Well,
was just
I mean,
feeling sorry for myself.
I think if you really you don't run if you don't believe you're the best candidate. I really believed that I was suited for this job. I really believed that it was something that I'm good at. I believe that I knew that going in, I had 36 members of Congress that had endorsed me and that wanted to see me be successful, you know. And so to be Forrest Gumped is a hard thing.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Frank's going to be successful? I mean, this is just, I didn't plan this. Because it's funny, I watched a video of Frank yesterday dealing with the YMCA issue. Somebody sent me a clip and said...
The backpedal?
Yeah, first off, that was out there during the campaign. That's one of my regrets that didn't come out during the campaign, and I blame myself for that. But, like, the way he handled this whole YMCA issue, and then they sent me a 3-minute clip from WJOB yesterday where he was, like, angry and pissed off. Like, the fact that he's even being questioned about this, and I'm thinking to myself... this ain't shit compared to what you're going to be dealing with in D.C. Like, you think the water's hot on a stupid YMCA? Wait till you get to Washington, D.C., and you're dealing with abortion issues and union issues and the debt. And
tough votes.
And tough votes. And where, like, half of the region is united against you. And, like... I
Half
just
the
wonder
country's probably united.
because, like, he's not. I mean, you said something during the campaign. We laughed and shared it amongst ourselves. You said that a trustee is not prepared to be a congressman.
I still believe that.
I agree with you. By the way, I don't think that the training Frank received as trustee is going to serve him well in Washington.
Well, it's also again an executive role, right? It's an executive role, and
But
he can direct people. It's an executive role.
I know, but I wouldn't equate my job to Frank's job any day of
No.
the week. My job is so complex compared to his job. Like, my job is so, like, I have.
It's a different job,
Totally.
absolutely.
But,
it's
like,
a different level of, of responsibility.
So, like, do you think that, you know, he's going to be able to make the leap and he's going to be successful like his mentor Pete? Or
I don't know the answer to that. I know that he's got a lot to learn. I know he's got a lot to learn. And, you know, I hope for the region that we do have a representative, whoever that may be in the future, that has the ability to build our party and to understand that we face really unique challenges. Here in Lake County, it's an easy peasy because it's a Democrat county. It's not that way. And, you know, I think that you have a lot to learn if he's humble, if he's as humble as his persona, let's say, and recognizes that he doesn't know anything. And, you know, who knows? I don't know what, you know, I don't know what Mark Lopez will be doing for him, so I really can't answer that.
I guess we'll wait and see.
I guess
it's going to
so.
be interesting. Well, Mara, we're going to wrap things up, I think, Mary.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming in.
Do you regret running?
no, not at all.
Do you?
No.
No, it's part of my DNA.
No.
Like the fact
I too was
Yeah.
not regretful about
No,
running.
I'm not. I look back and I see, like, every once in a while I see a McDermott yard sign, or Kevin was driving me out to
Still?
Yeah, we were somewhere. Yeah.
Pick up your shit,
I know,
Mayor.
man. Like, they were everywhere. But, like, we were driving
Somewhere.
We went
Michigan
out
City, I
to
think,
Michigan
or something,
City,
yeah.
and my stupid billboard.
There's a
like,
billboard.
we drove by
No
one.
one's bought
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It must have
My
been a bad
heart-
location
My
we picked.
heart hurt. I'm like, God, dude,
Bad
like, take
location.
that
Get me
shit
off of that.
down.
Get me off of that billboard.
God damn, that sucked. But, like,
Yeah.
so, like, I still get PTSD when I see my yard signs. But
I mean, I was ready to leave the General Assembly. I did,
Yeah,
you know,
you did a great job.
I did 14 years and, you know, got elected to leadership. And
you're not done, Mara. You're not done.
I'm excited to see
I don't believe
what's
you.
coming next. We're
believe
excited.
you.
I don't believe it'll be in a public role. There's a lot of opportunities should we get a Biden administration.
Well, maybe not an elected role, but
True
you'll be
story.
out there. Yeah,
True
for
story.
sure.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
There'll
Yep.
be a lot of opportunities.
If he
And
becomes
I think
president.
that it's really important that we do not end this show without talking about how critical this election is. Unfortunately, we saw it in our race that, you know, the air was sucked out of the room literally by the coronavirus, by COVID-19. And nobody wanted to focus on the election. It was all about COVID. And I would make phone calls and they're like, how dare you call me? People are dying.
People
you know,
were
it's a different
very-
time than now, right? It's a much different time than now. We had an opportunity to run a real race.
Yeah.
It might have worked out differently because
Mara,
certainly,
you're good in public. You're good face to face. Just like I felt like one of my strengths was taken away. You know, being
I felt that.
campaigning over the phone,
I
campaigning
felt
over
that.
Zoom.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I was running against two boys with their daddy's names. You know what I mean?
I
So,
know.
you know, it's true. It's true that
I
we're
do have my
politicians
daddy's name.
before them. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but I don't know
And
how much
that's a
that helps
lot
me
of-
with my dad being a big Republican. I don't know how much that
Well,
helps me.
it's
Well,
all
look at
it
your
helps
look at your
name
mailers.
recognition.
He's a Republican.
He's a former Republican.
Right. Right. So is Mike
He's
Conrad.
a former Republican.
No,
and
I
we
would-
talked
we could
about
sit
that.
here.
Right.
We
No,
talked
I
about
voted-
that a little bit on Twitter.
I voted for every party in my life. I voted for Ross Perot when he ran. I was independent.
You're all over the place.
I voted Republican
That's why you're
in the
left of
past.
center.
I voted right, but like no, there's no doubt which party I'm in, and I'm happy to be in, and I want to help change our party so that it comes a little bit back to the center. That's my goal. Is I mean.
Well, I don't think you have that issue here in Northwest Indiana. You've just got this, like I said, this small band of Bernies. They haven't been able to field a local candidate.
One last
that wins,
question.
I don't think.
Your husband said something when he was in here that was interesting. He said that the ballot was engineered, and I know what he meant by that. And when you talk about Melissa Borum being in the race, for instance, was that part of the engineering? When you talk about Kerry Castro being in the race, was that part of the engineering? When you talk about do you think that the ballot was engineered, and if so, who do you think was doing it? Because I don't see Congressman Pete being the one that's all in the weeds trying to deal with this. I think it came from Lopez.
No, I mean,
personally.
I think it was some and kudos, the hat tip to the, full-on House of Cards plan, because it really seriously was a masterfully engineered plan. And we know that it was a plan now.
It was.
And so, we all know who did it.
Mark Lopez.
We all know. And,
Congressman's chief of
kudos.
staff.
Good job.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's
Good-
disgusting.
good job.
I think it's like porn. Like it doesn't belong. It doesn't belong in that race. Like having a person like Mark Lopez manipulating the ballot like he did doesn't belong in
This is
democracy.
why people want
Right, with the
term.
analogy,
This is why
but-
people want term limits. This is why people believe in term limits, because they don't believe that,
understand
people should be able to pick who they want to be able to pick who they want to represent them. And I think when you have people that have been in office for a really long time, 40 years, you see what you see at the State House. You see people that can, barely walk, cobbling around the State House. And, those are things that
Don't get me started on that.
You shouldn't.
I got one of them representing our city right now. I'll let you
I'm
guys
not
do
gonna
the
get
math.
into that. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that are way past their due date that shouldn't
Hell yeah.
be running. And so they shouldn't also be, if they are not fit to run, then they shouldn't be picking who comes next. It's not a monarchy. You don't get to bequeath your throne.
I'll tell you what, when I'm done as Mayor Hammond, I'm walking and I'm going to let the voters decide. And the reason I say that is because I saw what Vysotsky did, and he's stained, not that he wasn't stained in my mind forever, but like what he did, I think it's totally classic.
It's an interesting way to go out, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, we all were in the race because, ultimately I think that in Indianapolis and in the U.S. Capitol, everybody wants to do the right thing, right? They want to do the right thing by the voters. They want to, you hope that they want to do the right thing. And this was a very, personal thing, I think, with the congressman and you. It was very personal thing. And
You want to hear something ego-driven from me? I think the reason he didn't run again was because he knew I was running against him.
Well,
I honestly think he resigned.
and maybe you wouldn't have won, but you would have given him the race that he had not had ever.
Ever.
Right.
He
I
had
think
never
that's why
had-
he resigned. So I think he hates me because of that. I don't even think he likes the fact that
You
Frank's
mean
taking
you think
over.
like he wanted to go out on his own terms and you prevented him from
Yes.
doing that? Okay.
Yes. And then I don't even think he's that happy that Frank won because he's still not going to be the congressman.
Well, I mean, he did endorse him. And
He did,
say
but, like-
say that he had the right temperament. I was like, are we talking about a labradoodle or a congressman? So
yeah.
All
it
right.
is what it is.
Well,
guys,
again,
Labradoodles do have good temperaments.
There's
I
no
am
shame in
looking
your game.
forward.
Thank you
I
for
am
coming
looking
on.
forward.
Thanks, Mara, for coming in.
Thank you guys for having me.
Looking forward to having you back. Thank you very much. It's good to see you.
Nice seeing you, Representative Reardon.
Thanks.
Take
Thanks
care.
for watching,
care.
everybody.
Good to
Left
see
of
you guys.
center.
Left to center.